The phone call came during my lunch break at Rico's Diner, where grease stains decorated my uniform and tips barely covered bus fare. Mom's voice sounded strange, like she was hiding something sweet in her mouth. She asked if I could pick up groceries after work. Normal stuff. But then I heard Dad in the background saying a number that made my sandwich taste like cardboard. 300,000 left to transfer. That's when my world started cracking apart like dropped china. Because Madison, my perfect older sister, was getting money for her dream school. And nobody thought to tell me. I'm Riley. And this is how I learned my family had already decided my future wasn't worth betting on. Growing up in our 2-story brick house felt like living in Madison's museum. Her piano recital programs covered the refrigerator. Her science fair ribbons hung in the living room like party decorations that never came down. Photos of her shaking hands with the mayor sat on every shelf. My stuff. Mom kept it in a box under the stairs like Christmas decorations you only bring out when you have to. I wasn't angry back then. I told myself Madison earned her spotlight fair and square. She practiced piano while I played outside. She studied late while I watched cartoons. Maybe I just wasn't special enough to deserve the same treatment. At Rico's Diner, I learned to crack eggs with one hand and balance 3 plates up my arm. The owner, Mr. Chen, always said I had good hands for this work. He meant it as a compliment. Dad said the same thing once, but it sounded different coming from him. Like he was closing a door instead of opening one. Madison got piano lessons, math tutors, and college prep courses. I got a used apron and a pat on the back for being responsible. When report cards came home, hers went on the fridge even with 1 B+. Mine went in a drawer even with all A's. Mom would smile and say that's wonderful honey, then turn around to ask Madison about her day like mine never happened. But there were good days too. Dad took me fishing once, just us, and let me steer the boat. Mom baked my favorite cookies sometimes, the ones with chocolate chips and walnuts. Madison taught me how to braid hair before school dances, her fingers gentle and patient. These moments felt like sunshine breaking through clouds. They made me think maybe I was wrong about everything. Maybe they did love me the same. Maybe I was just being sensitive. Those tiny pieces of attention kept me going, like collecting pennies and pretending they'd add up to something big. I held onto each one tightly, afraid to admit they might not mean what I wanted them to mean. The only person who treated me like I mattered completely was Grandma Rose. Her apartment smelled like cinnamon candles and old magazines, with sunlight that felt warmer somehow than anywhere else. She listened when I talked, really listened, not just waiting for her turn to speak. When family gatherings got too loud with Madison's latest achievements, Grandma would wink at me and we'd sneak to her kitchen for cookies. She'd tell me stories about flowers that grow best in shade, about how not everyone blooms at the same time. I'd leave her place feeling like maybe being different wasn't the same as being less. But even Grandma didn't know how heavy my chest felt walking back into that house each night. Everything changed on a regular Tuesday afternoon. I came home early because the diner's dishwasher broke and Mr. Chen sent us home. Dad's office door was open just a crack, and I heard him talking numbers with someone on speakerphone. Big numbers. My feet stopped moving on their own. The lawyer's voice came through tinny and professional, discussing the final wire transfer for Madison's law school. $500,000 total. Felt dizzy. Then Dad laughed and said something that punched the air from my lungs. At least we only have to worry about one kid's education. Riley's happy flipping burgers. The room spun. My bag slipped from my shoulder and hit the floor with a thud that echoed through the hallway. I stood frozen outside that door, my heart beating so hard it hurt. Dad kept talking like nothing mattered. The bank confirmed everything's processed. Madison's set for the next 4 years completely covered. Then Mom's voice joined in, softer, worried. Should we tell Riley? Dad's response came quick and sharp. Why? She's doing fine. She doesn't need law school. She needs reality. Madison has the grades, the drive, the future. Riley just needs stability. That word, stability, felt like being buried alive. Like they'd already dug my grave and planted a headstone that read she tried her best. Every time they forgot my birthday, every missed school play, Every time they left me home while taking Madison to fancy restaurants suddenly made horrible sense. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely grip my keys. $500,000. The number kept spinning in my head like a broken merry-go-round. That money could have changed everything for me. College, real college, not community classes squeezed between diner shifts. A future that wasn't covered in bacon grease and other people's leftover food. Mom's voice drifted out again, uncertain. But we promised both girls we'd help with school. Dad cut her off fast. We are helping. We're being realistic about their abilities. Madison's going to be a lawyer. Riley's going to be fine doing what she does. Fine. That word tasted like poison. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to make them see me for once in my life. I couldn't stay in that house another second. My legs moved before my brain could catch up, carrying me toward the front door like I was running from a fire. Every family photo on the wall felt like it was mocking me. Every trophy and certificate and ribbon that proved Madison was worth investing in while I wasn't. My vision blurred with tears I refused to let fall. Not yet. Not where they could see. I grabbed my jacket from the hook. The old denim one with the ripped sleeve that Madison said made me look homeless. Right now I didn't care what I looked like. I just needed air. I needed space. I needed to be anywhere but trapped in this house of lies. Madison appeared at the top of the stairs, wearing her fancy interview suit, looking like a magazine ad for success. "Hey," she called down brightly. "Did you pick up my dry cleaning?" The question was so normal, so casual, so completely unaware. Something inside me snapped like a rubber band stretched too far. I looked up at her. This golden child who got everything handed to her on silver platters while I fought for scraps. "No," I said, my voice strange and flat. "I didn't." Her face scrunched with confusion. "But I asked you this morning. You said okay." I laughed, and it sounded broken even to my own ears. "You know what? Get it yourself." Her eyebrows shot up. "What's your problem?" "My problem." I took a step toward the stairs, anger making me brave. "My problem is that you've never had to get anything yourself your entire life." Madison came down 3 steps, her hand on the railing, looking genuinely confused. "Riley, what are you talking about? Where is this coming from?" "From Dad's office," I said, and watched her face change. "From hearing exactly what this family thinks I'm worth." Her confusion melted into something else, something almost guilty. "Oh," she said quietly. "You heard." "Yeah, I heard. I heard that you're getting $500,000 while I get told I'm good enough for dirty aprons and minimum wage." Madison's jaw tightened. "Riley, you don't understand. The money is an investment. Law school is expensive. So is caring about both your daughters equally," I shot back. "But I guess that's too expensive for them." Her eyes flashed with something sharp. "You're being dramatic. Maybe if you'd applied yourself more, worked harder in school, they'd feel differently." The words hit me like slaps across the face. "Worked harder," I repeated slowly. "I work 40 hours a week while taking night classes. You've never worked a day in your life." Madison crossed her arms, her voice going cold. "I've worked plenty. Just not the kind you can see. I've worked to maintain straight A's, to network, to build a future. You chose the diner, Riley. Nobody forced you." Before I could respond, Dad's voice boomed from the hallway. "What is all this noise?" He appeared, Mom right behind him, both looking annoyed like we'd interrupted something important. "Your daughter," Madison said, pointing at me like I was a stranger, "is upset about my law school funding." Dad's face hardened into stone. "Riley, this is not your business." "It became my business when I found out you think I'm only good enough for flipping eggs." Silence dropped over us like a heavy blanket, thick and suffocating. Dad's face turned red, the way it did when someone challenged him at work. "You were eavesdropping," he said, making it sound like I'd committed a crime instead of accidentally hearing my own family trash me. Mom stepped forward, her hands twisting together nervously. "Sweetheart, you're misunderstanding." "No," I said firmly. "I'm finally understanding. You gave her everything and told me to be grateful for nothing." "That's not fair," Mom whispered, tears filling her eyes. "Life isn't fair," Dad snapped. "Madison has potential. She's going to make something of herself. And I'm what? Nothing. You're practical, he said, and the word landed like a hammer. You're the reliable one. The steady one. We don't worry about you because you've already found your place. I felt something inside me break clean in half, something that had been cracking for years finally splitting completely. My place, I repeated softly. You mean the place you put me because it was easier than believing I could be more. Mom reached for my arm. Riley, please. Can't we sit down and talk about this calmly? Madison made a small sound, almost a laugh. She always does this. Creates drama over nothing. Just be practical for once. That smirk on her face, tiny but unmistakable, was gasoline on flames already burning out of control. Practical, I said. But practical, like accepting that I'll never matter as much as she does. Dad's voice went dangerous and quiet. If you can't have a mature conversation, maybe you should leave. Fine, I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounded. I will. And don't expect me to come back and pretend this didn't happen. I drove to Grandma Rose's apartment with tears streaming down my face, barely seeing the road through the blur. When she opened the door, she took one look at me and pulled me inside without questions. Her tiny kitchen smelled like mint tea and safety. She sat me down at her wobbly table and waited, just waited, with her wrinkled hands wrapped around mine. The words poured out of me like water from a broken dam. Everything I'd heard, everything they'd said, all the years of feeling invisible finally making terrible sense. Grandma's face grew sadder with each sentence, but she didn't look surprised. When I finished, empty and exhausted, she squeezed my fingers. I was afraid of this, she said softly. Your grandfather and I saw it happening, the way they poured everything into Madison and left you with crumbs. A knock interrupted us, loud and insistent. Grandma sighed and shuffled to the door. Through the kitchen doorway, I heard Mom's voice, high and desperate. Rose, please, we need to talk to Riley. We need to fix this as a family. I felt my whole body tense up like a cornered animal. Grandma's voice came back firm and strong, stronger than I'd ever heard it. Linda, maybe you should have thought about that before telling your daughter she isn't worth your investment. But it's a misunderstanding, Mom pleaded. Riley took things out of context. Did she? Grandma asked quietly. Because from where I'm standing, you've been sending that exact message for 18 years. Mom went silent. Then footsteps, and suddenly she was in the kitchen, looking smaller somehow, like she'd shrunk. Riley, she whispered. Please come home. We can work this out. I stared at my mother, this woman who'd raised me but never really seen me, and something cold settled in my chest. Work what out? Yes. The part where you lied about treating us equally. Or the part where Dad thinks I'm too stupid for college. Those aren't his words, Mom said weakly. They're exactly his words. Grandma cut in sharply. And you stood by and let him say them. Mom's eyes filled with tears. I did try to speak up, but your father, he has strong opinions about practical choices and stop, I said. Just stop. You're making excuses. Grandma moved to an old desk in the corner and pulled out a thick brown envelope, the paper worn soft from age. She handed it to me, and my hands trembled taking it. What is this? Open it, she said gently. Inside was a stack of papers, bank statements and letters and legal documents. My name appeared over and over. An account I'd never known existed, with numbers that made my head spin. Thousands of dollars saved over years, sitting there waiting for me. I started this the day you were born, Grandma explained, her voice thick with emotion. Every birthday, every Christmas, every time I saw your parents choosing Madison over you, I added to it. I knew you'd need it someday. Mom's face went white as paper. Rose, you had no right to do this behind our backs. I had every right, Grandma snapped. Someone had to care about this girl's future since you clearly didn't. The money sat in my hands like a key to a door I didn't know existed, heavy with possibility and years of secret love. Why didn't you tell me? I whispered. Because, Grandma said sadly, I kept hoping they'd wake up, that they'd see what they were doing and change. But they never did. 4 weeks after that, I threw myself into plans, applying to schools, mapping out budgets, building a future with Grandma's gift as my foundation. Community college became real university. Diner shifts became stepping stones instead of dead ends. I moved into a tiny apartment near campus, its walls thin but mine, completely mine. Then Grandma called one afternoon, her voice tight with worry. "Riley, honey, you need to know something about Madison." My stomach dropped. What happened? Her boyfriend Jackson, he got arrested. Something about stealing money from the company he worked for. They're investigating whether Madison helped him. The words didn't make sense at first, like hearing a foreign language. Madison. My perfect sister. Impossible. But Grandma's silence confirmed it was very possible. The golden child was tarnishing, and apparently the fall was spectacular. Madison called me 7 times before I finally answered. When I did, the voice on the other end didn't sound like my confident, put-together sister. It sounded broken, desperate, scared. "Riley," she sobbed, "I need help. Messed up. I messed up so badly." "What did you do?" I asked, my voice neutral, careful. "Jackson had this plan," she rushed out. "A way to make quick money. I thought it was legal. I swear I thought it was just smart business. But it wasn't. And now the police think I knew. They think I helped him steal." "Did you?" I asked directly. The silence stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. Then, small and ashamed, I found some weird papers. Transfers that didn't make sense. But Jackson explained them away, and I didn't push because I didn't want to seem stupid. So yes, maybe I knew something was wrong. Maybe I should have asked more questions. Madison's breathing came ragged and uneven through the phone. "The prosecutors are offering me a deal. If I tell them everything about Jackson, what I saw, what I suspected, they'll go easier on me. But Mom and Dad, Riley, they're telling me not to. They say it would ruin Jackson's life, that loyalty matters more than truth." My anger flared hot and immediate. "Jackson stole money, Madison. He broke the law. Loyalty doesn't cover up crimes." "I know," she whispered. "I know that. But Dad keeps saying our reputation matters. That testifying makes us look bad, like we raised a snitch. He wants me to stay quiet and hope it blows over." "Will it blow over?" I asked, already knowing the answer. She laughed bitterly. "Well, the evidence is everywhere. If I don't take the deal, I'll probably go to jail too." "Then take the deal," I said simply. "But they're my parents," she said weakly. "They want me to." "I don't care what they want," I interrupted. "What do you want?" Another long pause filled with muffled crying. Then Madison spoke, her voice barely audible. "I want to do the right thing. For once in my life, I want to make a choice that isn't about looking perfect or making Dad proud. I want to tell the truth." "Then do it," I said. "I'll be there with you if you want." "You would do that?" she asked, sounding genuinely shocked. "After everything?" "You're still my sister," I answered, and meant it. The next morning, I met Madison outside the prosecutor's office. She looked terrible, hair uncombed, yesterday's makeup smeared, designer clothes wrinkled. She looked, for the first time ever, human. We walked in together, and I sat in the waiting room while she disappeared behind heavy wooden doors. When she came out 2 hours later, her face looked different. Lighter somehow. Scared but lighter. "Done," she said. I told them everything. The aftermath hit like a tornado. Dad called me that same evening. His voice cold as January ice. "Your sister just destroyed this family's reputation," he said instead of hello. "Did she?" I asked. "Or did Jackson do that when he decided to become a criminal? We could have handled this quietly." He continued like I hadn't spoken. "Private settlements. Lawyers who know how to make things disappear. But no. Madison had to run her mouth, and you encouraged her." "I encouraged her to tell the truth," I corrected. "We need money," Dad said abruptly, changing tactics. "Madison's legal fees are astronomical even with the deal. We're going to need you to help cover them." The audacity stole my breath for a moment. "You want my money? The money you said I didn't need because I was just a diner girl. That money." Dad's voice went hard and mean. "You owe this family, Riley. After everything we've done for you, feeding you, housing you, raising you, you owe us." I laughed, harsh and sharp. "Everything you've done? You mean ignoring me?" telling me I wasn't worth investing in, giving Madison $500,000 while I got lectures about being realistic. That's what you think I owe you for? Listen here, young lady, he started, but I cut him off. Mo, you listen. I don't owe you anything. Not money, not loyalty, not one more second of pretending you were good parents to me. The line went dead. He'd hung up on me. 2 days later, both my parents showed up at my campus, ambushing me outside the library. Students stared as Mom grabbed my arm with surprising strength. We raised you better than this, she hissed. Better than abandoning family in their time of need. Dad stood behind her, arms crossed, looking like a disappointed principal. Your inheritance from Grandpa's estate, he said bluntly. We need you to sign it over to help Madison. Or family. Family helps each other. That inheritance, I repeated slowly. The one Grandma set aside specifically for me because she knew you'd never treat me fairly. That inheritance. It belongs to the family, Mom insisted. Not just you. Actually, I said, stepping back from her grip, it belongs to me. Legally. Grandma made sure of that. Dad's face turned purple. You ungrateful little Riley. A new voice interrupted. Madison walked up, looking exhausted but steady. Just stop. They turned on her, confused. What are you doing here? Madison took a deep breath. I asked her to meet me. I wanted to apologize, without you two twisting everything. Dad looked betrayed. Madison, we're trying to help you. No, she said firmly. You're trying to help yourselves. Madison turned to face me directly, ignoring our parents' shocked expressions. I'm sorry, she said, and tears ran down her cheeks. I'm sorry for the smirk. For telling you to be practical. For every time I acted like I deserved more just because they told me I did. I benefited from their favoritism and I never questioned it. That was wrong. I was wrong. Mom started to speak, but Madison held up a hand. I'm not finished. She looked back at me. You don't owe me anything, Riley. Not money, not forgiveness, nothing. If you never want to speak to me again, I'd understand. But I needed you to know that I finally see it. Everything you went through. Everything they did to you. And I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. Something cracked in my chest, but it wasn't breaking, it was opening. Like a window letting in fresh air after years of stuffiness. Dad moved forward. This is ridiculous. Or family. We don't. Family means everyone, I interrupted. Not just the favorite kid. The confrontation moved to Grandma Rose's apartment because she demanded it, calling Dad directly and telling him if he wanted to discuss family business, it would happen under her roof with her rules. We all gathered in her small living room that suddenly felt even smaller, cramped with tension and years of resentment. Grandma sat in her armchair like a queen on a throne, her walker pushed to the side, her eyes sharp and clear. A lawyer named Mr. Patterson sat beside her, briefcase on his lap. My parents sat on the couch, stiff and uncomfortable. Madison and I stood near the window. You wanted to talk about money, Grandma said. So let's talk about money. Mr. Patterson opened his briefcase and pulled out folders, spreading them across the coffee table like cards in a game. These are financial records going back 20 years. He explained in a calm, professional voice. Gifts given, educational expenses paid, allowances, opportunities, everything documented. Dad leaned forward, frowning. What is this? This is proof, Grandma said quietly, of exactly how much you invested in each daughter. Mr. Patterson pointed to highlighted sections. Madison received $500,000 for law school. Piano lessons from age 5 through 18, totaling $40,000. Math tutoring, college prep courses, SAT coaching, another $60,000. Summer camps, enrichment programs, networking events, roughly $75,000. The list continued, number after number, building into a mountain of money spent on one child. Then Mr. Patterson flipped to another page. Riley received, he paused, checking his notes, approximately $8,000 total over 18 years. A used car for her 16th birthday. 2 semesters at community college before she had to start paying herself. The silence in the room felt like death. Mom's hands covered her mouth. Dad stared at the papers like they were written in blood. "This isn't fair," Mom whispered. "You're making us look like monsters." "I'm making you look at the truth," Grandma corrected gently. "But there's more," Mr. Patterson continued, pulling out another folder. "This one's edges were worn, clearly handled many times. This concerns your family business, the consulting firm Mr. Brennan owns. Or owned, technically." He looked at my father. 3 months ago, an audit revealed some concerning patterns. Payments to shell companies. Unreported income. Creative accounting that crosses legal lines. Dad shot to his feet. "How dare you investigate me? Your family." "I'm a lawyer who cares about these girls," Mr. Patterson replied calmly. "And when Madison's situation made news, certain people started looking closer at your business dealings." "Or people?" Dad demanded. "Federal people," Mr. Patterson said quietly. "The investigation is ongoing. But currently, it appears funds were mishandled for years, possibly to maintain the lifestyle you wanted to project. A house, cars, Madison's expensive education. All built on finances that don't quite add up." Mom made a small choking sound. "This can't be real." "Oh, it's very real," Grandma said. "And now we come to my proposal." Mr. Patterson laid out the final documents. "Here's what will happen," he said. "You will retire immediately from the consulting firm. Ownership and operational control will transfer to a trust managed by independent parties until Riley and Madison are ready to take over, if they choose to. You will move to the Florida condo, the one in your name, and you will live quietly. In exchange, certain information stays private. Certain investigations lose their momentum. You get to retire with dignity instead of disgrace." Dad's face had gone from purple to gray. "You're blackmailing us." "I'm protecting your daughters," Grandma corrected. "From the mess you created and the choices you made. You should be thanking me." Mom burst into tears, real ugly crying that shook her whole body. "We love our girls. We always loved both of them." "Love isn't enough," I said, speaking for the first time in minutes. "Love without respect, without investment, without seeing someone for who they really are, that's not love. That's just words." Dad looked at Madison desperately, like she was his last hope. "You understand, don't you? You know we always wanted what was best for you. Both of you." Madison wiped her eyes and straightened her shoulders. "You wanted what was easiest," she said. "Investing in me was easy because I fit your image of success. Investing in Riley meant seeing past your own biases, and that was too hard. So you didn't." He crumbled then, actually crumbled, falling back onto the couch with his face in his hands. "I'm sorry," he said, muffled and broken. "I thought I was doing the right thing." "You thought you were doing the comfortable thing," Grandma said. "Now you'll do the actual right thing. Sign the papers." The sound of pen on paper filled the room, scratch after scratch after scratch, signing away control, signing away power, signing away the life they'd built on unequal love and questionable money. When it was done, Mr. Patterson gathered everything efficiently and stood. "I'll file these tomorrow. The transition will be complete within 30 days. My parents left without looking at either of us." The weeks that followed felt strange and quiet, like the aftermath of a storm where you walk outside and everything looks different in the clear light. Mom and Dad moved to Florida without ceremony. Their phone calls brief and awkward when they came at all. The family business transitioned smoothly under Mr. Patterson's guidance. Clients barely noticed the change in management. Madison started therapy, real therapy, dealing with years of pressure and expectations that had twisted her into someone she didn't recognize. We met for coffee sometimes, conversations still careful but growing more honest. She was learning to exist without the golden pedestal. I was learning to exist without the weight of invisibility. The diner Rico's, where I'd spent so many hours feeling trapped, came up for sale when Mr. Chen decided to retire. I bought it with some of Grandma's money, renamed it Rose's Kitchen, and turned it into something new. Not fancy, but warm and welcoming, a place where everyone who walked through the door felt seen. Madison finished her legal degree but surprised everyone by going into family law, specifically helping kids in unfair situations. She said her perfect life had taught her what damage favoritism does, how it ruins everyone involved, both the favorite and the forgotten. We worked together sometimes, her legal skills and my business sense, building something neither of us could have created alone. As for me, I stopped trying to prove I was worth something. I simply started living like I already knew my value. Each choice I made, each boundary I set, each time I said no to something that diminished me, it added up. Not into revenge or bitterness, but into a life that fit me perfectly, built by my own hands according to my own plans. Grandma Rose passed away peacefully 2 years later, in her sleep, surrounded by the cinnamon candle smell and old magazines she loved. At her funeral, I stood up and told everyone that she saved me, not with money, but by seeing me when no one else would. In the end, justice didn't arrive with thunder and lightning. It came quietly, steadily, like water shaping stone over time. Every small choice to value myself. Every boundary I defended. Every time I chose my own path instead of the one carved out for me by people who didn't believe I could walk anywhere interesting. Those moments added up to a life that was mine, completely and absolutely mine. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, if you've ever been told your dreams weren't practical enough or your potential wasn't worth betting on, you're not alone. Share your story in the comments below. Subscribe to Flex Revenge Unfold for more stories about finding your strength when others count you out. Your voice matters here. Your story matters here. You matter here. Always remember that.